Okay. Thanks so much, Brian and Claire, for joining me on this Google Hangout for we're really going to focus on what students can do to land a job in social media marketing, SEO. And we met at Search Love conference in Boston. Was that 2 weeks ago? Like 10 days ago, not that long ago.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're quick on the draw here, but I thought you would be great to talk to because you specifically said that you don't think that you did anything that special to get to be where you are. So I thought, okay, let's hear what you didn't do that wasn't, or what you did do that wasn't that special, so other people can follow along and have the success that you have. But first, I guess we should talk about your background, where you went to school, when you actually did graduate, what types of classes you took.
So I went to Bentley University. I graduated in May of 2013. And I started off my Bentley career as a corporate finance and accounting major. I did an internship after my freshman year and decided that accounting most definitely is not for me. So I moved over to economics and finance. I was going to concentrate in marketing. And during my first marketing course, I had a professor that just kind of changed the way I looked at things, and she was a huge impact on my Bentley career, and I ended up changing to get my Bachelor's of Science in Marketing.
And what was her name?
Her name was Leslie Simmel.
Nice. Okay. So if you're at Simmons, make sure you take a course with her. I mean, at Bentley. We were talking about Simmons last hangout.
Yeah, they're still all girls for undergrad, I think. So I don't think I'm gonna fit
in there. Yeah, good. And did you only take that one course with her, or you took others?
I actually ended up taking 2 courses with her. I took business-to-business marketing, and then I took marketing management. And that was the marketing management course was in my senior year, and that she was a huge help in helping me write my cover letters and stuff like that. But actually, I didn't really get my job from any of the cover letters or applications that I sent out.
Do tell.
So I got my first job at American Tower because I went to a career fair that they had on campus, and I walked around and I was talking to the different recruiters that were there. Bentley's largely a corporate finance and accounting school, so most of the recruiters were really looking for finance and accounting majors to recruit. So as a marketing major, there wasn't a lot really there. I chatted with some of the recruiters, and one specifically I chatted with for quite a while. We had like a nice conversation. It wasn't really about what my career path or anything like that. It was just we had a few things in common, and we started chatting, and it was just like a normal conversation. I gave her my resume and kind of didn't really think anything of it because they were very specifically looking for audit interns for their internal auditing team. And then a few weeks later, I received an email from the Bentley on-campus interviewing office, and they had American Tower had reached out, that recruiter had reached out to them to get in touch with me to go in for an interview. So I went in for that interview, and they actually only offered me an internship at first. I was a graduating senior, so I went in for the interview. I figured at the very least it could be good experience. I was trying to interview as much as possible, and they offered me the position as the intern. I initially turned it down and told them that as a graduating senior, I really couldn't accept a position as an intern, even though it sounded like something I was really interested in. I really liked the direction the company was going, and from what I had learned about the company, it seemed like a great place to work. I ended up chatting with the marketing manager there back and forth a little bit, and was promised a full-time position at the end of the summer, pending my performance over the summer as an intern.
Wow, so paid to negotiate.
Yes, it worked out. That worked quite well. I also didn't end up taking that position. So I did my internship there, and during my time there, I ended up working with the internet marketing manager who had just been brought on a few months prior to me to do a redesign of the website. A few weeks after I started there, they launched their redesigned site. I started on June 15th, I want to say, and the site launched on July 9th.
Wow.
So it was only a few weeks, and I ended up working with her on quite a few things. I had a not a um, not a traditional background in any type of computer information science, but it was something that I had done as a hobby.
Oh, cool.
And I leveraged that to get myself on some of the projects with her because I found it very interesting, and there was still a big marketing component to it. So after working with her, she had been approved to bring somebody new on her team. So I worked with her, and she basically wrote the job description for me. And then I interviewed for that position, and that was the position that I ended up taking.
What were some of the things that you would do as a hobby that parlayed into this position that you took?
So I've always been a little bit of a techie, a little geeky, and in high school and stuff, I spent all of my time and money on mobile technology and technology more generally. I built computers and I wrote a few websites. Um, Being in my generation, you get a lot of you're positioned very well because we were growing up when the internet became really the internet we see today, and everybody had a web page. When I was in when I was in the end of elementary school, beginning of junior high, like sixth, seventh grade, many people had like those very crude AOL web pages, and it got you to learn the basics of HTML. And a lot of people just did it for fun then and then forgot about it. But I thought it was kind of cool, and I continued to learn it, and I ended up building a few websites for a few very small companies that were just family friends.
Cool.
And so I was always interested in that type of coding and internet stuff. So it was, even though I had no real training in it and I had no real background in it, and it wasn't something that I ever really pursued in an educational environment, it ended up being very useful to me once I entered the job market, or actually once I actually got my first job.
And how old were you when you were building these websites?
Um, I was When I first started, like my first AOL page, I was probably like fifth grade. So what's that, 11,
Yeah.
10?
Yep.
And I was just getting on the internet. I was very, very lucky. My mom came from a development background. She was a programmer for a company called Curtains and Home.
Cool.
So I learned the basics from her. She helped me out with some of the basics back then. And then I kind of went from there, and I just, really buried myself into it. I always really enjoyed computers. It was just something I always really liked.
About how many websites did you build while you were still, but even before you got to college?
Um, I probably built a dozen really crude sites, like nothing special. Like I built a website back when I was in like eighth grade, um, and it was just purely to create a message board so that I could keep in touch with some friends that I had met on vacation.
Cool.
And so it was just kind of our little private area to like chat.
Where'd you go on
Um,
vacation?
I went to the Club Med in the Dominican Republic.
Nice. That sounds pretty good.
The Club Meds are great. I'm definitely a big fan of them, especially for families. Like I did them a lot as a child. My family was big on them, and I think they're a really great experience.
Nice. Well, there you go. And now you're working in the travel industry.
Yes. So after I was doing my time at, or not doing my time, but I was working at American Tower, and I was enjoying myself. I was learning. I was in a good position. I wasn't actively searching for a new job. I but I do a lot of networking, and even throughout college, I always tried to get myself to as many networking events as possible, to meet as many people as possible, and just make connections. It doesn't have to be about business or whatever I'm trying to do in life, just making connections. And a friend of mine who is in the natural foods space, she had found out about this really cool product. She had actually met the founders. It's called Owl's Brew. It's a tea-based cocktail mixer. It's sold in all Whole Foods.
Oh,
It's really, really good. So I went to go meet the founder, who was up in Boston for the weekend, or for the week. She was doing some demos, and she had some prospects in Boston to sell to. And I met her at the bar at a hotel, the Ames Hotel, and she introduced me to her product. We chatted a little bit. We were going to see if I could do some lead generation work for her, some prospecting, and maybe even some sales.
cool.
At that same night, she had left, and I decided to get another drink and just hang around a little bit. And I was sitting at the bar, and I started chatting with this guy sitting next to me, and we had just I think it was the Panda update that had happened last October, and we were chatting about that. We were chatting about how it affected our sites. And I was working on 13 different sites, but they were relatively small. They weren't driving. They didn't have that much traffic, and we only really ranked on branded keywords.
Right.
So it was really difficult for me to really see how things were, being affected. Whereas he was telling me, he had these sites with, thousands of pages and tons of visitors, and so he had a lot more of an effect by it. And so after chatting for a little bit there, he asked me if I was looking for a job. I told him I wasn't, but I'm an opportunist.
Have to be teenage. Have to be your own age.
Absolutely. So it was actually a Tuesday, and Tuesday evening, and he was like, "Well, I'm flying back to London on Thursday evening. Can you come in on Wednesday or Thursday?" I was like, "Well, tomorrow is Wednesday. It would be unreasonable for me to just be like, hey, I kind of can't come in today." So I think there was a press release that day, so I had to be in the office to stand by for that. But so I ended up going in on Thursday, and I interviewed here, and now I'm at Cheap Flights. And
Cool.
That person that I ran into at the bar is now my boss's boss.
Nice. That's awesome. So it pays to be friendly and confident, and to be self-assured when you're networking. What other tips do you have for students who are where you were 2 years ago?
I think one of the biggest things I could say is just meeting new people. And when you go to a networking event, don't just talk to somebody and try to figure out what they can do for you, because people see right through that, and people don't really want to just talk to somebody who's looking for something. Everybody's there for a reason, but if you make a connection, a genuine connection, you're much more likely to get something out of that relationship, and it's going to be a reciprocal relationship more likely. You're not going to just try to get it. Somebody's not going to meet you at a networking event and then be like, "Oh, I'm going to give this person a job."
Right.
But if you start a relationship with that person, if you make a connection, and maybe it's over sports, maybe it's over Panda algorithm update, that's going to create a talking point and something you can converse about, and they're going to be likely to remember you.
Right. Yeah. And what about, I think you mentioned when we spoke before, how many networking events would you go to while you were still in school?
So as a student, I was pretty heavy on it. Even in my junior year, I started trying to go pretty frequently. I was trying to go to 1 or 2 a month. My senior year, I really ramped it up, and I was trying to do 1 a week my first semester, and my second semester I was doing sometimes up to 3 or 4 a week, and just going to anything I saw an opportunity for. And even if I just stopped in and it was a small event and I was there for 20 minutes, it was still putting myself out there and putting my an opportunity isn't going to come to you. And if you're sitting in your dorm or your apartment, or you're just out with your friends in that small enclosed group, you're not going to meet new people and you're not going to find that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put yourself out there, and especially I think that one of the things I learned going to networking events is that go by yourself. You think it's uncomfortable and you don't really know what to do at first. But when I went to networking events with other people, I ended up chatting with just them. And I didn't go to a networking event to talk to somebody that I already met. I think that kind of defeats the purpose of it. You're not really networking.
Right.
But if you go alone, and like I said, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be awkward, but go up to people, because they're there to talk to people as well. And you think you feel awkward, and you might feel as a student that, I'm the low person in the room, but you're expected to approach them. Somebody that's there as a business person, they might be just as awkward, if not more awkward than you. And B, they're kind of expecting people to come approach them. So if you're going to these networking events, just go up to people, say hi, start a conversation. Nobody's going to shoot you down.
Yeah. I find an easy thing is, especially, people of a certain age sounds terrible, but, a lot of the world has children. And as a parent, you always have something to say about your child. If you have kids, there's always something that you can say. So let's say we were just meeting, and, it just naturally in the conversation would come up like, oh, do you have kids? It's so easy because you can get somebody to talk about their kids pretty much nonstop if you want.
That's true.
And they will think the world of you because, if you do it the right way, it's just an easy conversation. And then, while they're prattling on about whatever their toddler does, sometimes it gives you time to think about, well, what do I really want? All right, I found out this person works for American Tower. And, I'm thinking in my brain okay, I have a client and maybe American Tower is a prospect for them. Meanwhile, let's say you have kids, right? You're talking about, how you don't get any sleep or what have you, so it's kind of an easy way to give yourself a breather. And it doesn't work for everybody. And, some people clearly, might be put off. So you have to be, a little bit gentle about it. Up until recently, I kind of kept the fact that I was a mom kind of on the DL, because I didn't want people to perceive me as oh, I was only, not fully committed to my business, or that I would back out of things, which I don't do. Now she's 2, and now all my clients know yeah, there might be a sick day here and there, but adults get sick too, so
Absolutely.
still I get the job done. And I'm just curious, before you would go to a networking event, how would you decide which ones to go to? What would you do to prepare to, would you get psyched up? Do you have your business cards? What are some of the things that you did that maybe other people might not be thinking about because they haven't done it yet?
So I did have business cards, and business cards are great. I think that, you can get them for very inexpensive. You can get them on Vistaprint. I think it's shipping is $12. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely worth it. One thing I did, which I actually was told helped a little bit, was I put my picture on my business card, because people, when you go to a networking event, a lot of these people are meeting 40, 50 new faces, and it's difficult to remember people. So if you have a face to put to the name, it, you know, connects those memories. But at the same time, as great as business cards are to have, it's much better to get business cards because you can't depend on somebody to reach out to you. But if you have those business cards, then the next day you go down the line and just email each one of them and go, hey, it was great to meet you. And one thing that I started to do near the end was I would always carry a pen on me. And after I was done interacting with somebody and I got their business card, I would jot down a couple things that I remembered about our conversation so that I can include that in the email, because then, you know, that will spark the memory to them as well. And it'll show that you actually cared, you actually listened, and you're not just sending out this generic email that's probably going to the other 35 people they got business cards from.
Right. I used to, when I first started really networking, it's right about the time LinkedIn really came on the scene. And LinkedIn used to make it easy to personalize your message. And now they make you go through a couple hoops rather than just send the invitation to connect. But it's also important to remember that LinkedIn, not everybody is on there all the time. They may not see the response. Typically, I will reach out to people on LinkedIn, and if I don't hear back from them, I might send them an email as well, just to kind of close the loop. But LinkedIn, if you can't remember who that person was, you got a stack of business cards at the end of the night. I'm like, okay, was that this person or that person? You can go on LinkedIn, and so it can help be like a little trigger right there too, and look and see who their connections are too. LinkedIn, I think, is a really great resource. So would you do like any, there's a TED Talk that talks about like if you raise your arms over your head, and like there's all these different techniques you can do that basically biochemically build up your esteem. Did you do anything like that?
I did not. I'm actually really, really lucky. I am super extroverted and I'm pretty outgoing. So I naturally just love to talk and meet new people. So I didn't really have any of those things. Like public speaking is not something that I ever considered a fear, whereas that's like actually one of the number one fears. About, like they say, I think it's a Seinfeld joke. When you're at a funeral, the person giving the eulogy would rather be in the coffin than be giving the
eulogy. That's awesome.
I always liked public speaking and stuff like that, so engaging with new people was a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would just, review my resume, just think about things that I would want to talk about, the news as well, review the news, just quick things that are happening. If it's a marketing event, look at, top marketing news, what's happened in Mashable, what's on Marketing Profs. If it's like I said, I went to a bunch of networking events that weren't related to me. I went to finance events, look at the stock market real quick, see if, if there's a huge influx, then it's probably something you'll want to be chatting a little bit about. And even if you don't have an extensive knowledge of it, you could just be completely honest. Don't try to play yourself off as a finance major at a finance event if you're not. But just, chat about it. People like to talk about things they know, and you can also learn something.
Cool. So what is your job like day in, day out? What are the types of things that you're doing?
So I do strictly search engine optimization. I monitor traffic, do daily traffic reporting. We work very closely with our content team and our social team. I help find content gaps and look for, new areas where we can build new content that we can then do outreach on, or that will be linkable or shareable content. Basically, Google looks pretty much, not exclusively, because that's it's not really true, but the biggest way to improve your search ranking is going to be by building links. It's going to hurt you if you don't meet the technical SEO points, and you're not, you don't have your meta descriptions written, or your site is loading really slow. But it's really going to be link building is a big part. So I work a lot on that, as well as I do write some of the meta titles and meta tags, or meta descriptions rather.
What about keyword research? Do you have any particular tools that you work with that you recommend to people?
We use GetStat to track our keyword rankings. I think it's a really great tool. It's really robust. It's a little expensive depending on what your needs are. If you're a small business and you don't really have, it's going to be, I think it starts at $500 a month, which is a lot for somebody's
Right.
SEO budget if they're a small business, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a very useful tool. I know there are others out there, but I honestly just entered SEO. I entered SEO at my previous job, but it was a part of my job where I managed a consultant, and now I'm just entering SEO as of last December as a strict SEO. And so I'm not very well versed in all of the different options as far as the tools. I kind of use the tools that we have here, and I'm
Right.
helping to learn those. BuzzSumo is another tool that helps find new content that's out there. It's a really great tool, and within the content you can find keywords, and then from there you can find new keywords that you can then look at the search volumes and see if they are decent keywords.
Cool. That's great. And do you have a regular, like you have to be at the office at a certain time? Like what's the day-to-day like for you?
It's pretty flexible here, but I'm an earlier person. I like to be in early. I also like to take generally longer lunches. So I come in around 8:30, and I'll leave between 5 and 7, depending on if I've what I have to do, and whether or not I've taken a longer lunch.
Right.
But it's pretty laid back here. It's a really great atmosphere to work in. The only day I think I've had where I dreaded coming into the office was like a few weeks ago when allergies were really hitting hard, and that was more I just didn't want to get out of bed. But I really do enjoy coming to the office every day.
That's cool. So are there other people your age in the office, or like what's the environment like there?
Yeah, it's a small office. So we're a satellite office where there's around 20 of us, give or take like 2 or 3. So it's a really small office. There there's a few people around my age. I would say the median age is probably around mid-30s. I don't really
young.
know. I don't
Yeah.
really know, but that would be my guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a relatively young office.
Cool. And where are you guys located?
We're in Post Office Square.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So right in the financial district. It's a nice spot to be, and have that park in the middle. Which now that the weather is nicer, it's quite nice to go outside.
Yeah. And they have it all landscaped so nicely
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Difference. So what are 3 key skills that you think students need to have to be considered for a position like yours or in related fields?
So first and foremost, which I think that a lot of you get the basics down, but a lot of people don't really delve into it more, is Microsoft Office.
Mhm.
Know how to make a PowerPoint, and know how to don't use animations, but know how to make a PowerPoint. Um, know how to properly format a Word document. And on that same note, when you're sending out your resume, don't send down a Word document. Save it or print it as a PDF. You don't want it to be editable. When you're sending it out, it doesn't look very professional.
Really good
And
stuff.
Microsoft Excel, especially. That if you're going to go into any type of job that has analysis in it, I mean, Excel, I live by Excel.
Mhm.
I it's a huge part of my job. If you're going to go into SEO, you really, really need to know Excel. It's such a powerful tool, and there's just so many great uses for it. Um, Aside from the Microsoft Office, number two, I would say, is knowing how to really communicate with people, um, knowing how to write emails, and don't draw things out. Don't write these huge wordy emails. Only include what you really need to include, but at the same time, don't be too short because you don't want to come off, like a jerk.
Mm.
I think um, there was a really great article. I can't remember who put it out. It was about I think it was Eric Schmidt from Google. His rules for for email etiquette,
Nice.
and um, and it was really a great read. If you could find that, and I could send it over to you, that you could post
That would be great.
with the recording. It's a
Yeah.
it's a really great piece for where not
Good
just
for
learning, but
everybody.
rules to live by. Yeah,
Yeah.
for writing emails and communicating. Really, when you're in a meeting and you don't like somebody's idea, don't try to shoot it down. Try to suggest something different. Do it in a nice way. People don't really like to be told they're wrong. I know I hate to be told I'm wrong, even if I am. But if you pose it in a different light, people are a lot more understanding of it.
Right.
And three, I would say, know how to really be at work when you're at work, and learn how to single task. That's something that I had to learn.
Hmm.
Um,
That's really
we're in a generation where multitasking is pretty much rampant. You go out, you're with your friends, you're talking to somebody, you're texting somebody else, you're Snapchatting somebody else, and you're thinking about something else all at the same time. And at work, you have email up and it's constantly popping up, and then you have the work that you're actually working on, and then you have your phone, which is vibrating with text messages or Facebook messages or notifications or whatever else. And I've started to that was something I had quite a lot of difficulty with when I first started at American Tower, where I was kind of all over the place, and it worked for me when I was in school
right.
because I wasn't working 9 to 5. I kind of was working anytime I just had. And if you're in an environment like that and you're with a startup or something like that, that's great. And if you can make that work. But I think for most people who are going to be in an office environment, it doesn't really work. And so now what I do, I really work on single tasking. I use an application called Stay Focused to help me, like, when I constantly am changing what sites can and can't be blocked based on what I need to be doing, because I can't really, can't block Twitter and Facebook all the time because that would make it hard to do my job. And
Yeah.
similarly, there's a lot of different things that could make that difficult. So I can't just do an all over block, but using that to help me, just force me to not get distracted. And I mean, I block out news sites a lot. I block out a lot of SEO sites a lot because I'll see something and it'll be like, oh, let me go look that up, and like go to look it up, and I'll go to search engine land, and I'm like, okay, now I'm spending an extra 20 minutes reading about this thing that is great and can
Right.
be very useful, but I'm not getting my task done.
Right.
So I think just really being present at work and learning how to single task and get the project you're working on done,
Yeah.
rather than getting a little bit of it done and a little bit of something else done and a little bit of something else done. I don't think that the quality of work really comes out when you do it that way. And that was something that I had to learn, and I really wish that I had learned a little sooner.
And as far as, learning things, how did did you take a course in Excel? How did you perfect your Excel skills? Because I know that that's really key if you're an SEO.
So going to Bentley, very economic or very finance and accounting targeted. So in our everybody's freshman year, you're forced to take a. I say that like it's a horrible thing, but it actually is really you're required to take a course that introduces you to Excel.
Mm-hmm.
I had Excel experience prior to that. When I was in high school, I took a computer for business course. I was certified in Microsoft Office 2003, which by the time I got to college was useless, but this function still carried over and stuff like that. So I started using Excel from a pretty young age. I'm an Eagle Scout. So when I was in Boy Scouts and I was the senior patrol leader, which is like the highest ranking scout that's like a child, I used to use Excel a lot to keep track of things, whether it was budgets for a camping trip or attendance or whatever else. It was something that I leveraged as a tool. So I got, an early start there. I got, like I was telling you at Search Love with my job, I just got really lucky with the way things happened. It was a really fortunate series of events. Like definitely there's a ton of resources out there. There are YouTube videos about SEO or Excel for SEO. There are whole websites devoted to it. I frequently look up different functions and different ways to use Excel for different things. I also am very lucky to have a lot of close resources. My roommate he works in finance, so he uses Excel a lot. He's a power user, so I get to ask him a lot of things when I have like really difficult time figuring something out. He usually knows something that can help me. We also have some analysts here that are really, really great. And that going back to that, when you're in the workplace and you find out somebody's good at something like Excel, make friends with them and don't be afraid to ask, because even if they don't know and they're good at Excel already, they're going to have a better chance of figuring it out, and they're probably going to find it as a challenge, which will then, they'll be excited to share that with you and teach you how to do it.
Cool. So I'm just curious, before you, I guess, rewind back 2 years, what did you know about SEO? About what you're doing now?
I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I knew that it was like really changing. I remember actually like really, really crude SEO back from when I was in high school, and learning about how websites would do stuff like, put, in the same color as the background, put all the keywords, or under a photo, they would put all these keywords and just
so
really
bad at that stuff now.
Yeah, stuff that obviously doesn't work. But that was kind of like the idea that I had on it. I didn't really know all that much about it. I knew that there was a lot going on with Google. I've always been a Google fanboy. I really, really bought into the Google ecosystem, which sometimes I worry about, but we'll see. Hopefully they won't take over the world and steal all my data. But so I did know a little bit about it, but I didn't know quite the extent of it. I knew that keywords mattered. I knew that content mattered. But it was really, I learned a ton from from the consultant that I worked with at American Tower. His name's Bill Schultz. He's now working out of Texas, I believe. He's since moved. He after not this past winter, the winter before that, I think he was a little ready to pack up and move somewhere warmer.
He picked the right time to leave.
Yeah, I'm still in touch with him, and I was chatting with him about that a few months ago when there was still 7 feet of snow in Boston, and we were trekking to work.
Yeah, eek. I think I've met him before through search engine marketing in New England. That name sounds really familiar. Well, what other tips or advice do you have for students who are maybe interested in social media or PR, marketing, analytics? Because you do touch on all of those things at work a little bit, right? Because you work with those teams.
I do, I do. Especially analytics, I work in a lot. If it's something that you're really interested about and read about it, and if you have thoughts about it, blog about them. It's something that I'm trying to start doing myself, and I've started, publishing a few here and there. I think I've only published 2 short blogs on LinkedIn, but it's a great place to just publish stuff and get yourself out there. It's a great way to improve your SEO for your name, and really creating that personal brand, which you hear about so much, and it's such a buzzword. But get on social media. Don't do stupid stuff on social media. Just be kind of smart about it. I'm not saying to lock everything down and don't post any pictures of you drinking or anything like that. People understand that everyone likes to have fun, and the way I feel, if I wasn't going to get a job because I posted a picture of me at a party, then I probably don't want to work for a company like that. That's going to be that conservative, because that says something about their corporate culture. But really, create your brand and really promote that brand. Twitter's great. It's a great place to interact with people. When it's used correctly, I like to use it for information sharing and information gathering. I have a few different. I use TweetDeck. I have a few different columns set up for different things that I scan especially when I'm looking for stuff. And when you learn about new stuff, just putting it out there. But I think blogging is something that it's very easy to do, and it's also very easy to do and then not get noticed. But doing something like blogging on LinkedIn, I think, can really be a great starting point when you're a student and you're learning about all this new stuff, and just really keeping up on it. Read Mashable, and go to networking events about it. Go to shows about it. A lot of the trade shows even have options for students, if you're still a student, that you can get in for a reduced price. And I've never had the opportunity to do something like that, but if I did, I think it would have been an amazing experience.
And I think don't be afraid to approach an organizer. Let's say that it's $50 to go. I think a lot of organizations would say, oh, just come, it's fine. Well, we're going to waive your fee, or it's $10, or we'll get someone to sponsor you. And shows, especially if you have a blog. I mean, when I first started out, I did a lot of blogging, and I used to be a journalist. I knew nothing about search marketing or social media. I mean, social media was barely starting back when I was thinking of leaving the Boston Globe. And I went to all kinds of shows. I went to like printing industry shows. And it's amazing because I was so sheltered being in the newspaper world that I didn't really know kind of what was going on. And I was at a print show, and some guy says to me, we're on the trade show floor, and he says, you should read this book by this guy who was the keynote yesterday. You should have been here for that. And it was David Meerman Scott's first book. And it was he's like, basically, he says you need to hire a journalist. What you should do is you should go to every show he speaks at and hand out your business card. You know what? That is amazing advice. So I read the book, and I was like, okay, I got to figure out this SEO stuff. And I think, what's different about being a student, and at that time I was, in my mid-30s, so I was long. I mean, I had my master's redone, all that. But I think what's different now is that there are so many opportunities to learn beyond school and to be your own professor and curate your own education. And I think that that's what's important. And in this day and age, it's really crucial. I mean, you must have said at least a dozen times, I'm reading this, I'm looking up that, I follow this person. We met at a search marketing conference. So all these things that you can do, it just never stops. So you may as well start now, don't you think?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, reading is something that is, everybody reads, and not just articles and stuff like that, because everybody reads tons of articles, and you have Feedly and Twitter, and you're constantly reading new stuff. But I think also reading full-fledged books, which is something that people don't really do so much anymore, is really, really important. I've read almost all of Malcolm Gladwell's books now. I think he's a phenomenal, phenomenal author. It's definitely something to read. If they're interesting takes on, they're not directly business books, but they'll help you in business. They'll help you really think about the world in a different way. And but yeah, reading and learning, just constantly making sure you're learning. If you're not learning, you're in the wrong place. And the same goes for your job. If you're at your job and you're not learning anything, you should probably find a new job.
I was just thinking that when you said that, I think when you're looking for a job, you want to look for a company or an organization that's really going to help you learn and keep learning, because ultimately you are investing in your personal brand. When I first started my company, just the Great Recession was just starting, and I always say it was a great opportunity to start a company, because I wasn't so busy with client work that I could really educate myself on SEO, social media. Like I said, I didn't know anything. And if you are if you're entering a good job market like there is now, and you can be selective, choose a company that's going to say, like, yes, we give you time to research, and we want you to go to conferences, and embrace all those opportunities. Because there are companies out there who do not support that. I was offered a job, and that was the deal breaker for me. As I said, I want to keep still going to conferences. It's important for me to keep up to date. And they really weren't on board with it. And so we just sort of said, like, let's not go down this path any farther. If you have that, you have two good offers, I think go for the one that's going to support you in terms of ongoing education.
And yeah, I think that's a very, very important part. You should make sure that your company is committed to growing you as not only as an employee, but as a person, and letting you learn. It should be relevant to your job in some way, but letting you learn things that you want to learn. Right. American Tower provided budget for educational opportunities. A lot of companies also give the tuition reimbursement, which I think is a little bit not as great as actually sending you to conferences or seminars. Cheap Flights obviously sends us to conferences. We wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah.
But it's something that's very important, and that they'll give you the time to really grow yourself.
Yeah. And what other books have you read that you like, that you'd recommend? A bunch of my interns are graduating on Sunday, and if you're going to be on the beach this summer, have some time to yourself. What books do you recommend picking up?
I'm a big fan of all the classics. I love, because they're great talking points, but I just think they're great reads. 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 and Brave New World are like three of my favorite books.
Yeah.
I love dystopian novels. Great Gatsby is another one. If you're trying to go a little more to the harder side of things, Getting to the Yes is a good book. I can't remember who exactly the author is. Like I said, Malcolm Gladwell. I'll always recommend his books, as well as looking at if you're looking for just a beach read, looking at the New York Times bestseller list, because a lot of people have read them, and they're generally good books, and they're generally something that's pretty easy to talk about in an educated crowd.
Right. Yeah, that's a great tip. And I think too, another thing that I didn't want to miss out on, we talked about blogs and books, but podcasts also.
Yes. I actually just started really listening to podcasts now that I have a decent walk in my commute, so it works out quite well. I used to be a big NPR listener when I was driving to work, but now I listen to it's Mad Marketing Hour, I think.
Yeah, nice.
And no, I don't. I'm not really good at remembering. I could shoot you over the names of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
podcasts
That would
that
be
I've
great.
started
Which
listening
ones you
to,
like?
and you could post them later. But I think they're really really great to. They're easy to listen to. Put them on your phone, even if you and you can. I use the application Stitcher, which lets you download them offline, so you can listen to them when you're on the train and you don't have service. Um, they're really great for commuting, I think, or getting ready in the morning. I've started trying to do that. I'm not as successful as that because I'm usually too tired to remember to do it.
Yeah, I
um,
find I used to go running with my friend who I grew up with. We lived in the same town, different town, but we lived near each other, and we would run all the time. And then when I moved to Newport, and I have a lot of friends down here, but I got hooked on listening to podcasts. So now I don't like to run with anybody because I like to listen to podcasts. And I'm also a big fan of Audible and listening to books, which can be good and bad, right? Because sometimes like you're really in the thick of it, but it does have a bookmarking feature, which I really like. So I have some books that I can just go back and listen to the bookmarks, to kind of get a quick refresher. But and I always have it with me, right? Because it's on my phone.
yeah,
So
yeah,
anytime. And I used to drive my husband crazy because we'd go on vacation and I would just like be sitting on the beach listening. And he'd be like, want to say something, he'd be like, oh, wait a second.
yeah. I'm not personally a fan of listening to books. Especially the whole like speed of it of reading it. I like to, when things get really good and I start reading much quicker, and then
Yeah.
when I'm listening to it, I get a little like
Well, I
antsy.
listen
All
to
right,
it.
what's going next?
Yeah. No, I listen to it at triple speed. You can like speed it up or slow it down. So yeah, some of them, it depends on the book. Like I re-listened to a book on gamification. I listened to it first last summer, and then I just finished it. I thought, oh, I'll just listen to the bookmarks, but I ended up listening to the whole thing again, and I listened to it at normal pace, which was good because I got a lot out of it. But yeah. Well,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, you have to send me your lists of podcasts and blogs, things that you like. I would love to be able to share that. And any final tips or anything that has popped up? I know you
um,
got to get back to work.
yeah, I do. But final tips. I think it's just really important to put yourself out there. It's like I said, I don't feel like I did anything special. I just kept making sure I was out there. I talked to as many people as I could, and I got lucky, and that's really what it is. You there's a lot of luck in the world, um, and you just kind of really have to make yourself available for those opportunities, and that's how you become a lucky person. I think that luck isn't just something that is magical and that you really just have or you don't. I think it's really how you position yourself, and if you position yourself to be you know in in a place where people can see you and where you can meet new people, then you're going to find these opportunities and they're going to find you.
That is great. That's a really great soundbite. And any conferences or networking events that you go to now, if people wanted to meet up with you in person?
There is one coming up. It is I forget who it's by. It
I did send
is
you the search engine marketing in New England, right?
yes, you did. I haven't had a chance to actually sign up for it, but it
I think the announcement just came
uh,
out.
is on June. I want to say Content Rising Summit 2015. It's by Skyward.
Cool.
So that's going to be in Seaport at
Nice.
I think it's at the Weston waterfront. Yep, the Boston Weston waterfront, and that is the 17th to 19th. That's a
Fun.
content marketing conference.
That'll be great. And you're on Google Plus, and what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is RGC1106.
Yes. Okay. We'll have to type that one up. Cool. All right, and you're on LinkedIn, of course.
Yep.
Claire. All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your insights. I think that to me, what your story says is that it's not what school you went to, it's not, who you know, it's who you get to know and just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and actually that just leads me to one last tip
Yeah.
about LinkedIn. Something that I noticed, put keywords and buzzwords in your title, even if it's not really what it is, if that's what you want to do. I noticed that my title was internet marketing coordinator at my last position. And despite the fact that it, was internet marketing, I never got hit up by recruiters. But now that it says search engine optimization specialist, get hit up by recruiters a lot. So if it's something that you want to do, look for buzzwords that are around that field and put them in your title. I'm not saying to BS your work experience. I don't think that's a good idea, but putting it in your title where people will find you in search on LinkedIn, I think is a good idea.
Awesome. That's a great tip. And thank you so much for all your insights. And I'm hoping to catch up with you either at a Newport Interactive Marketers or Search Engine Marketing New England or just in general.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
again, Ryan. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.